If I have only one variable, I don't need to make my code complicated. I can just use useState. If I have multiple values that are related to each other, like for example, an object called human. My human object have three properties: name, age, and gender. Now, instead of using useState for each individual property, I can put it all in one place and use useReducer. Now let's start by creating our functional component. In this function, I want to return the values of human property from inputs and display it in an h5 tag. So I need three inputs and an h5 tag here. Then I want to create a placeholder. So since I have these inputs, I need to be able to change the values of properties. For creating that re-render, I am going to use useReducer. For that, first, I'm going to import useReducer. Now I'm going to define it and I'm going to explain what each one of them means. As you can see, useReducer is returning an array to me. This array have two elements. The first one is the current values that are stored in my object. Whenever I want to change this state, I am supposed to call it from a function called dispatch. If you're not using dispatch to update state, it won't cause a re-render. I have to provide two things for useReducer. One of them is the function called reducer. It is a logic, and based on that logic, I am going to update the values of these properties. So this reducer is going to hold that logic. When I am creating the state, I have to have some values in there. So that is where initial state comes in. Now I want my human to be my initial state. Now let's go to the h5 that we created here. Since I want to show the current value of the property in h5, I have to call them from state. Reducer function is going to need two objects from me. One of them is the state and the other one is action. And then I have another object here called action. Action have two properties. First one is type. I will have all of the logics for all the inputs and action inside my reducer function, and they are in a switch case. So that means every time dispatch have to tell me which one of the logics it wants me to run. And it will tell me about that with one of the action properties called type. Always remember that you have to have a default case as well. Just in case none of these were true, then you will run your default case. Never mind, just going to simply return the state. Now let's capture the changes that happen in the input with unchanged, and we want to pass the dispatch function. We are going to switch the cases based on action.type. I have to give the value of action.type here. Now each one of these inputs want to send a value. So that value is going to be sent through action.payload. And the value of the input is going to be accessible under events.target.value. So now I have to set the payload to the events.target.value. But before that, I need to pass that event to dispatch. Now I'm going to write the logic for my reduce that. First thing that I got to do is to say that everything that is in state is supposed to stay in state. But the name is going to be replaced by action.payload. Now I'm going to update all of these. Now anything that I write here is going to update the h5 below. Stick here, I'm supposed to put function human form outside of function app. Now let's try again. I write lucky